you've clicked on a video where the topic is, how much money does somebody need to have saved if they're 60 years old and they'd like to live on $5,000 a month after taxes for the rest of their life? And before we jump in, pause the video and just give it some thought. Think about what you think the answer is going to be, and then we'll compare notes at the end. All right, let's go for a walk. So I've been a fee-only financial advisor for over 20 years. I've helped hundreds and hundreds of families prepare for and guide them into retirement. So I've done these types of calculations a lot. And today, rather than use the professional software, I'm going to use a software tool that if you want, you can follow along. You can find the tool, it's free. It uses a Monte Carlo simulation. We'll talk about that later, but that makes it a more advanced tool, and I would say a more accurate tool. You can find it at honestmath.com. This is not an affiliate, this is not a sponsorship. I just think it's a good tool, and I like the fact that they offer it to the public for free. Okay, so remember our protagonist, the person, 60 years old. They know that they want to live on $5,000 a month after taxes. And the question is, how much money do they need to have saved? So we go to honestmath.com, we look at some of the numbers, and let's plug some of these in. So the first thing is we're going to plug in some personal information. So you can see under the name, I just have, the case here, 60 and $1.5 million. And that's going to be my first guess. I don't know what your first guess was. You can see the birth date is in January 1964. You can see I've got Social Security being $2,500. So in this case, once it kicks in, Social Security is going to start here at full retirement age, 67. And once it kicks in, Social Security will be paying $30,000 of pre-tax dollars, and the rest is going to have to come from their savings. Anything else on here? There's no pension, there's no rental incomes, things like that. So that's the personal information. Now, before we go much further, how much money does somebody need to have? What kind of income do they need to have after taxes? $5,000 a month, which is $60,000 a year. So, let's just assume that they're in the 20% tax bracket. So 80% of $75,000 is that $60,000. So their gross income is going to need to be $75,000 because some of that's going to get taxed, and they're going to be left with $60,000 or $5,000 a month. Okay, so let's look at the portfolio, and I'm making a guess that they're going to need $1.5 million. Let's see how close I am. I have an unfair advantage because I've been doing this a long time. So but I don't know if this is the right answer, so we're going to have to walk through this together. Okay, the asset allocation in here, I'm not saying this is the right asset allocation for you or for anyone else. I've got 60-40, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. I should say this is not financial advice. I do not know your specific situation, so it can't be financial advice for you. And also, I should say, do not use a free online tool to determine whether you can retire or not. Use it to get you in the ballpark, use it to have an idea, but then I would argue you want to hire what I call a fee-only financial advisor. Somebody that's not trying to sell you anything. Somebody that is going to be a fiduciary to you 100% of the time. And people that are fee only have agreed to be fiduciaries 100% of the time to their clients. Okay, let's keep going. So we talked about the portfolio. The next section in this free online tool is expenses. And for that, it's pretty simple, right? Now, I've got the $6,250 a month, which is just this, just $75,000 a year. So that's what the gross is. And you'll see here, it also takes into account taxes. So the taxable portion of the portfolio is going to be 75%. That means that 75% of the assets being pulled out are going to be taxable. And Social Security is going to be 80% of it is going to be taxed. In certain situations, and actually in many situations now, Social Security can and is taxable. So look at my videos online. I've got a video where I go over that. So just look it up, Social Security and Azul, A-Z-U-L, and you'll find it. Okay, so that's the tax rate. And then, that's the taxable income in the taxable part of the portfolio. And the next thing is the effective tax rate. What's your tax rate? I've got 20%. Some people say, hey, Azul, that sounds kind of high. Other people say, hey, Azul, that sounds low. The one thing I'd remind you is if you live in a state that has state income tax, 20% for somebody making $75,000 a year is probably in the ballpark. because many states, depends on your state, but many states tax income, the state I live in taxes income at 5%, pretty much flat rates. So we just click on simulation, and the results here are pretty good. They're not perfect, but they're pretty good. Those light blue lines on the up end are the best outcomes. The light blue lines on the bottom end are the worst outcomes. Now, I mentioned earlier about a Monte Carlo simulation, and you can see up at the above, there's a disclaimer that shares that they ran 10,000 different scenarios. So a Monte Carlo simulation is just a statistical tool where we can take actual stock market returns and then we can randomize those. And instead of just living one life like you and I get to, this simulates having 10,000 different lives. You know, what if you get lucky and the stock market does really well in the first couple of years of retirement when it matters the most? That's what the upper end of that blue line is. That is the upper 20% is what you're seeing there. And then what if you get unlucky, right? There's 10,000 scenarios. That's what the lower line is. That's the unlucky folks. And you know, the reality is none of us know if we're going to be in the lucky camp or the unlucky camp. And we can't control everything. I don't want you to fear that too much. Sometimes people are like, oh, you know, I'm really afraid that this or that's going to happen. Well, it might, but it's out of your control. Right? What we can control is how much money that we save up until retirement. What we can control is what our expenses are, at least outside of the healthcare arena. I said 10,000 simulations, so what's this dark line? That dark line is the median, and that means half of the cases, 5,000 cases, 5,000 simulated lives, if you will, did better, and 5,000 did worse. So those are the results, and you know, in the worst case scenarios here, in the unlucky scenario, people are running out of money in their early to mid 80s. And, you know, a lot of us would say, you know, so I'm hoping to live past that. I'd feel better if that didn't happen. Okay, well, here's the advantage of having a free online tool. We'll just run it again and we'll make another guess. And this time I'm going to increase it by 10%. So instead of 1.5 million, I'm going to say $1,650,000. So I go back in, the only place that I need to change that, it's just one line item. I just go under portfolio, I change it to 1,650. I hit run, I hit simulate again, and here's what the results are. Now, in this case, the worst case is, the unlucky situation is you run out of money at zero, your dollar's zero, at 88. That's pretty good. I would say for many, probably most, the vast majority of my clients would be okay with that. The median is you pass away with $1.8 million. And then the best case is you're dying with over $5 million. So, you know, yes, you can boost your confidence. Let's say you're looking at your situation and say, all right, I have an 80% likelihood of never running out of money. Is that good enough? Well, the question is, maybe it's good enough, but what are you going to have to give up in order to go from that 80% to a 97% and 95% likelihood of never running out of money? For most of us, we're going to have to give up 3, 5, or 7 years of your life. Now, in this situation, the scenario that I just went through, what is this person giving up to go from 1.5 million to 1.65 million dollars? You know, that's a gain of $150,000, but you know, it's probably 12 to 18 months of their life. Is that a good trade-off to have that sleep at night factor if that first scenario we ran caused them to lose sleep and caused them to be stressed? You know, nobody can answer that for you except for yourself. But for many of us, that 12-month trade-off to have 20 years of greater certainty, for many of us, we'd say, yeah, I'm willing to sign up for that. However, you know, if you had cancer and you thought, you know what, I've only got 3 to 5 years to live, well, you probably don't want to give up that year. So it depends on your situation, which is why I like this tool, is because you can try out different scenarios at home yourself. And I also want to encourage you, as we're waiting until we can retire, I want you to enjoy your journey. And that's what this video up here is about. 7 things that I want you to stop doing in your 50s and 60s in order to enjoy your journey more. I want you to enjoy retirement, but I also want you to enjoy your journey up to there. So I'll see you in there. Thanks for watching this video. Bye-bye.